Hey, what's everybody? Welcome to another edition of Wildcard MTG, where we go through 5 budget and/or unknown EDH cards from a specific set. This time we're looking at Ice Age. Now, Ice Age does have some very well-known cards in it. There's cards like Brainstorm, Demonic Consultation, Mystic Remora, stuff like that. There are some really good cards in the set, but these are 5 cards that I think are pretty underrated for the set. But I did want to point out the good cards because there are a lot of good cards. So, without further ado, let's look at our first card here. Our first card is Zur Weirding. It is 3 generic, 1 blue for an enchantment that says all players play with the cards in their hands face up on the table. Whenever any player draws a card, any other player may pay 2 life to force the drawing player to discard that card. Effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life. So this card is super weird, hence the name. I've actually built a Zur deck with a lot of cards like this that were thematic to Zur and everything that Zur likes to do along with combo. And you would be surprised how well this card works. I mean, just imagine, I know it's 4 mana, whatever, but just imagine, everybody playing, what everybody has in their hand, and then when they draw their next card, you know what that's going to be. So say it's like a counter spell or a removal spell or a board wipe or some big scary creature they don't want. I would rather just pay 2 life to not let them have it. I mean, why not? Why not? And it's not just you, any player you can do that. You can kind of politic people being, it's like, hey man, if you pay 2 life this time, I will pay the 2 life next time. And, you're kind of like doing damage to everybody while you're politicking all that stuff. It's a really weird card. It's really niche, but it does the job. Now, obviously, the way that this will kind of blow up in your face is if you have somebody who has a graveyard deck and they want stuff in their graveyard. So you got to kind of play it a little bit different there with like, maybe I don't want to pay 2 life to have them discard it. So, I don't know. Very niche card, I will say that. It's not going to work in everything. But it does do some damage. I will say that. So give it a try. Put it in an Enchantress deck or in a weird, low-powered Zur deck. Because the funny thing is, Zur cannot actually fetch this own enchantment for his ability, which is kind of funny, but probably for the best because Zur is pretty strong. Anyways, that's a pretty cool card. Let's go on to the next one here. Alright, our next card here is Burnt Offering. It's 1 black mana, not generic, sorry. It's an instant. It says sacrifice a creature to add that creature's casting cost in any combination of red and or black mana to your mana pool. I run this in my Sir Conrad deck. I put this in a lot of graveyard decks, actually. My Kresh, the Blood Braided, has this card in it because it does black or red mana. And let me tell you, if you're playing a mono black deck with a bunch of big mana value creatures, because usually there are in mono black decks, this thing will net you so much mana, or even a deck where you're wanting to sacrifice creatures. This thing will net you so much mana in return. I'm thinking about putting this in Valgavoth. I'm trying to put together a Valgavoth list. And I think, sacrificing your own creature to get a bunch of mana to maybe bring it back with Valgavoth's ability seems pretty good. I do really love this in Sir Conrad, though. That's the main place that I play this. Pretty underrated card. For 1 mana, you're going to get at least a Dark Ritual out of it if you're playing it pretty correctly and on tempo and everything like that. But even in a Rakdos deck, which is also a very sacrifice heavy color pairing, this card is so fucking good. 1 mana, come on. And it's got a little like Wicker Man theme, which is really cool. So again, pretty underrated card. You'll notice the theme with a lot of these cards I picked out too. They go really well in certain decks. I don't know how it just happened that way. And it happens to be cards that I play, so kind of worked out. Burnt Offering. Definitely try this one out. And moving along to our next card here, we have Hecm. It's 1 generic, 2 black. It is an enchantment It says when Hecm comes into play, sacrifice 4 creatures. Pay 0, tap target swamp you control to have Hecm deal 1 damage to target creature or player. I know it sounds like sacrificing 4 creatures is a lot, but again, in very specific decks, this thing is freaking awesome. Again, I'm going to use the Sir Conrad because Sir Conrad is one of the best graveyard sacrifice decks out there right now. And if you want to get rid of 4 creatures real quick to do 4 damage to everybody for 3 mana, this is the way to do it. And then on top of that, the activated ability, because you're in a mono black deck, being able to tap all your swamps to deal damage to players is also pretty good. Just gonna say. And again, this would actually be really good in Kresh as well, because you want to sacrifice a bunch of creatures to make Kresh bigger. Maybe not so much the swamp part of it, because you're probably not gonna have a ton of swamps since Kresh is a 3-color deck, but still, if you're running like an Urborg or somebody's running an Urborg, this will come back to bite them in the butt, or, you know, set yourself up for success having that Urborg in that deck. And again, Rakdos colors, you want to be sacrificing Orzhov even. I think this might be good in my Cleric's deck. I don't know. I would have to see. 4 creatures. I know it sounds like a lot, but again, if you're a sacrifice deck, and holy god, Conrad, let me tell you, try this card out. Let me know what you think. Hecm. And moving on to our next card. Again, like I mentioned, there's a little theme here. We have Songs for the Damned. It is a black mana instant. It says add black to your mana pool for each creature in your graveyard. Can you guess what commander I run this in and am recommending it for? Yes, that's right, Sir Conrad. Any graveyard deck, really. I've ran this in my Nethroi deck a couple times, just to like ramp out big creatures, but really it shines the best in a monocolor or dual color deck. It kind of loses, you know, the effect when you're in like a 3-color graveyard deck, because it might be good in Carador and stuff like that, but maybe Muldrotha too. It just kind of depends, you know. The 3 colors, like I said, it just kind of like, if you're only getting black mana but you have 2 other colors you got to deal with, it's not as effective. Conrad, though, let me tell you, if you have a graveyard full of like 10 creatures, 20 creatures, whatever, I run a lot of creatures in my Conrad deck, this thing will win you the game almost, because you're going to get 10 mana. You can just activate Conrad a bunch of times, or you can, you know, board wipe, whatever you need to do, because you can use this mana for anything. And it's at instant speed. I think this card is super good in decks like that, and lots of graveyard decks in general. Again, an Orzhov deck. I think this might actually be in my Cleric's deck as well, because that is a very sacrifice-heavy deck. Ella's so core would love this. So, lots of cool uses for this card. It really has only been reprinted a couple times. It's not terribly expensive, if I recall. It's only like 82 cents. For some reason, the Ultimate Masters copy is like $3, but whatever. Maybe because it's different art. But regardless, man, great card from Ice Age. And so let's move on to the next one. So next up, we have Diabolic Vision. It is 1 blue and 1 black for sorcery. It says look at the top 5 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand, and then put the remaining 4 on top of your library in any order. So this card did actually just get reprinted, which is kind of crazy because I've been playing it for quite a while in a bunch of decks that I have. It got reprinted in the Duskmourn Commander deck, yeah. Before that was in a beatdown set. So not a ton of reprints since Ice Age. The fact that it just got reprinted is kind of crazy. But this card's pretty good because you get to dig 5 cards, get a card into your hand, and then basically brainstorm everything that you just looked at, so you can like plan your hand out for the next few turns. It's only like 65 cents. It's 9 cents from the Commander deck. I run this in a rogues deck that is very dependent on getting like specific creatures out. Between this and another card in that deck, like I can just dig through everything and get all the specific rogues that I want out on the battlefield with this card. Also, if you're running kind of like a Grixis pile, this is really good for like digging for Grixis spells and stuff like that. So, highly recommend this card. I can't believe it's taken this long for them to reprint it, but I'm glad it did finally get a reprint. And again, it started in Ice Age, so that's why I'm mentioning it now, and I'm letting you know about the reprint. Definitely give this card a try. And so that's 5 cards that I think are pretty underrated, but hey, let's do a bonus card, because honestly, I could have picked way more cards from Ice Age. There were actually quite a bit of good cards in this set. My last one here, this is my little bonus card I'm going to mention, is Essence Vortex. It's 1 generic, blue, and a black. It says, bury target creature. That creature's controller may counter the spell by paying the creature's toughness in life. Effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter its loss of life. Again, I run this in my rogues deck as a removal spell or as a damage spell. Say you want to hit their biggest creature on the battlefield and they are obviously want to keep it. Well, now they're just going to take like 10 damage or something like that. Yeah, you got to worry about the crackback if they come at you for targeting that creature, but I think, you know, making them take the damage or choosing to bury the creature, it's a tough choice. So you have to kind of, as the player making that decision, you have to weigh those options, and it puts players in like this, like, oh man, I don't know what to do. Like, do I want to keep this creature? Do I want to take 10 damage, 5 damage, whatever? Figuring out what that is worth to you as the person choosing is kind of up in the air, and I really love it in my rogues deck because that deck is all about like lots of weird little choices like that. So I really like this card as removal, and it's instant speed, so, you know, it's either a damage dealer or a removal spell. It's very modal, and I think that's pretty cool. Very underrated card. That art probably wouldn't fly today in Magic, just because of semi-nudity, I guess. But it's only 26 cents. You know, I can't go wrong for a quarter. Never been reprinted either. So definitely try this card out in a Grixis pile or a Dimir Rogues deck, something like that. I think this card's pretty good, definitely underrated. Give it a shot. So yeah, those are all the cards that I chose from Ice Age. Definitely, like I mentioned, some very well-known cards in the set. Lots of Snow. This is where Snow originated from. Stuff like that. But yeah, there's some more cool cards I could have pointed out, but some of them were reserve list, and even though they weren't like terribly expensive, I just would rather find some other stuff that was worth it. So it looks like the next set up after this is going to be Homelands, so keep an eye out for that here in a week or so. I've been kind of working on some deck techs. I'm not really sure what I want to build yet. Foundations has some kind of cool stuff. Jumpstart has some kind of cool stuff. So I'm kind of going through the cards and seeing what is interesting to me. But if there's something that sticks out to you guys that are listening, let me know, and I'd love to kind of go through and see if I can build something. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this, please like and subscribe. It's super important. I'm kind of dipping my toes into this MTG space. Been playing for a long time, so your support is awesome. I've been loving the feedback that I've been getting from everybody, and we'll see you on the next one. It's Wildcard MTG.